What is diabetes? Diabetes has been recognized as a disease since ancient times. Egyptian papyri described the symptoms in 1550 BC, and Hindu physicians noted 500 years later that insects were drawn to the sugary urine of people afflicted with diabetes. The disease was first named in 230 BC by Apollonius of Memphis, who took it from the Greek word diabein, or to pass through, named from the description of the unquenchable thirst and capricious urine produced by diabetics. It was not until the latter part of the 18th century that the British physician John Rollo appended the Latin term mellitus, or honey sweet, to distinguish diabetics from diabetes insipidus, or water diabetes, which also causes excessive urine production. Diabetes mellitus, or DIM, is a lifelong disorder in which the patient's body cannot regulate the levels of glucose in the blood. The problem may be caused by too little insulin, which is a hormone produced by the pancreas that helps the body use the glucose properly, or the body's resistance to using the insulin that is secreted by the pancreas. The full name of the disease, diabetes mellitus, is used to distinguish it from diabetes insipidus. Diabetes insipidus does not affect blood sugar levels. There are two types of diabetes mellitus: type 1 and type 2. Type 1 diabetes is also called insulin-dependent diabetes or juvenile onset diabetes because it is caused by inadequate production of insulin by the body. In spite of the name, type 1 diabetes can begin in adulthood, usually in the late 30s or 40s. Type 2, sometimes called adult onset diabetes, is a more common type of DIM, accounting for 85 to 95% of cases in North America. It usually develops relatively slowly and is associated with being overweight and a family history of diabetes. Most people with type 2 diabetes are resistant to insulin rather than having a pancreas that is not producing enough of the hormone. There is really no way as of 2013 to prevent type 1 diabetes. Its triggers are not yet fully understood. Researchers are, however, trying to identify additional genes that increase a person's risk of developing type 1 DIM and to develop medicines that will prevent or slow down the destruction of the islet cells in the pancreas. Along with insulin treatment, nutrition is important for good control of type 1 DIM. Eating well-balanced meals in the correct amounts can keep blood glucose levels as close to normal as possible. The American Diabetes Association recommends that people with type 1 diabetes eat plenty of vegetables and fruits, select whole grain foods over processed grain products, and include dried beans, lentils, and fish into their meals. They should also eat lean meats, non-fat dairy products, and select water and sugar-free drinks over regular sodas, fruit juices, sweet tea, and other sugar-sweetened drinks. Treating diabetes DIM before it becomes a problem is really the primary prevention. Risk levels are high once the disease is established. The goal of treatment is to control blood sugar levels and to lower the patient's risk of blindness, frequent infections, heart disease, and other complications of diabetes. Every cell in the human body needs energy in order to function. The body's primary energy source is glucose, a simple sugar resulting from the digestion of foods containing carbohydrates, which are sugars and starches. Glucose from the digested food circulates in the blood and as a ready energy source for any cells that need it. Insulin, which is a hormone or chemical produced by cells in the pancreas, which is an organ located behind the stomach. Insulin bonds to a receptor site on the outside of the cell and acts like a key to open a doorway into the cell. Some of the glucose can be converted to concentrated energy sources like glycogen or fatty acids and saved for later use. When there is not enough insulin produced, and when the doorway no longer recognizes the insulin key, however, glucose stays in the blood rather than entering the cells. The body will attempt to dilute the high level of glucose in the blood, a condition called hyperglycemia, by drawing the water out of the cells and into the bloodstream in an effort to dilute the sugar and excrete in the urine. It is not unusual for people with undiagnosed diabetes to be constantly thirsty, drink large quantities of water, and urinate frequently as their bodies try to get rid of the extra glucose. This process leads to high levels of glucose in the urine. In diabetes mellitus, the body either does not produce enough insulin or the cells cannot use the insulin. 90% of the insulin producing cells of the pancreas in type 1 diabetes are destroyed by an autoimmune reaction. The resulting hyperglycemia and the inadequate amount of sugar in the cells together produce the symptoms and complications of the disease.